Today we are looking at a conflict that goes far beyond missiles, beyond borders, and even beyond the current war. Because the reality is that the crisis in the Gulf is not something new or something which is very contemporary. It has its roots in the past. At the heart of the situation lies a centuries old fault line, the Shia Sunni divide. What began as a theological split has today evolved into a defining geopolitical force shaping West Asia. On one side is Iran, a Shia majority theocratic state that positions itself as a protector of Shia communities. On the other side are the Gulf monarchies, largely Sunni ruled, led by Saudi Arabia, which sees itself as the anchor of the Sunni order. This is not just a religious divide, it is a struggle for power, influence, and regional dominance. Iran's assertiveness goes back decades. In 1971, Tehran seized the island of Abu Musa and the Nums from the UAE. It laid claim to the Bahrain, calling it the 14th province. It sent troops into the Oman's Dhofar region to shape the outcome of the conflict there. Following the 1979 revolution, the outward projection of power did not diminish, it intensified. Iran increasingly relied on proxy network to expand its influence, backing Hezbollah in various countries, Shia militias in Iraq, and Houthis in Yemen. These are not isolated flashpoints. They are part of a larger interconnected rivalry where a mistrust runs deep and lasting solutions remain. Without wasting more time, let me introduce Ambassador Prabhu Dayal and Professor Swaran Singh. Ambassador Dayal, I'm very thankful to you for joining me on this show. I know you're not well, but this show required you. And Professor Swaran Singh, again, thank you for always making time. Do you think that the Persian nationalism got intensified after the theocratic revolution that took place in 1979, and this fault lines actually determines what is happening in Gulf? And I want you to decode it for the larger viewers, because there was a report that came in NYT which quoted a senior officer that MBS really wants Americans to go for deeper operations in Iran. Ambassador.
Thank you. Let me begin by telling you, Karthikeya, that I've served 21 and a half years in the Muslim world. 3 years in Iran, which is the bastion of the Shiaism, and 15 years in Sunni Arab countries, plus, of course, 3.5 years in Pakistan, where the fault lines are very clearly evident. And there are often eruptions of violence between the Shias and Sunnis in Pakistan. Now, let me mention that Shias make up about 13% of the total Muslim population worldwide. And this translates to about 240 million followers. So the remaining 87% are Sunnis. So they constitute the majority, and they're about 1.7 to 1.8 billion. Of course, there are countries where the Shias constitute the majority, like Iran, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, and Iraq. They are the majority community. Though, of course, in Bahrain, the Shias are ruled by the Sunnis. The Sunnis are the rulers. But there are significant Shia populations also in Lebanon, Kuwait, Turkey, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, and of course in India. Now, the Shia-Sunni fault line in the Gulf is a 1400-year-old theological schism that has been modernized into an intense geopolitical struggle for regional dominance, particularly pitting the Shia majority Iran against the Sunni-led monarchies of the Gulf Cooperation Council, or the GCC, led by Saudi Arabia. Now, this fault line is often characterized by proxy conflicts in countries like Yemen, Iraq, and also to some extent in Bahrain. And it is nothing but about political power, as also influence and control over energy resources, rather than just being about religious doctrines only. Now, while the divide has a deep historical roots, it is often exploited for modern political power. And that is what we witness is happening
Okay.
in West Asia. This conflict is not purely theological, although it is played out and made out to be such. But there have been periods of coexistence. So that's why I say it's not purely theological. The competition now is for regional hegemony, and this conflict continues to deepen the divide.
Okay.
Now, as you mentioned, the 1979 Iranian Revolution, which established a Shia theocracy, challenged the legitimacy of conservative Sunni monarchies in the Gulf. Now, while sectarian populations are a mixed Shia percent of influence, runs through the region, with Iran, which is 95% Shia, and Iraq, which is Shia majority, and also significant Shia populations, as I mentioned earlier, in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia's eastern provinces. So all this become, factors which promote the regional conflicts. So as the only GCC state with a majority Shiite population ruled by a Sunni dynasty, Bahrain is frequently on the front line of tensions between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And the largest oil fields in Saudi Arabia are located in the Shia majority eastern region, causing Riyadh to fear that local unrest could be fomented by Iran. So these are broadly the fault lines which are at play in the West Asian region. Though, of course, I must mention that in the present conflict, which is going on between the US and Israel on one side and between Iran on the other, these fault lines are not playing any significant role, though Iran is attacking the Gulf Arab Sunni countries. But nonetheless, the divide is not really a factor in the present conflict.
Okay. Okay, Professor Swaran Singh, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that is this divide the real pulse behind what is happening, or?
I agree. I think it is at best can be described the divide that we are talking of, Shia Sunni divide, as a force multiplier, which has reinforced polarization either through proxies or through legitimizing narratives of getting some countries together in terms of resistance against oppression versus other countries talk about Iranian expansionism. But let me just share three things that have reinforced these fault lines very clearly, making them significant in determining the kind of tensions that we see in this Middle East region now. First of all, of course, the Cold War that created a situation where one bloc was led by Soviet Union and other by United States. And several of these countries, some of them, of course, also were non-aligned, but saw that there was an impact on politics of that Cold War dynamics that played out in multiple ways. Then from 1970s, when this region became a very, very focus area for global geopolitics because of oil being discovered in a commercial sense, again we saw this whole petrodollar system, which in that sense accentuated the kind of Cold War politics between Soviet Union and United States. In fact, there was also undercurrents of competition within the Western world, which primarily dominated most of the petrodollar systems in this region. And more recently, from 1990s or early 21st century, we saw again people's movement, sit-ins and Tahrir Square examples, orange revolutions, making some of these monarchies unusually suspicious as to what are the leverages that Iran potentially could use, for instance, in the name of people's will and so on. And that is how I think these fault lines that we talk about, which are fundamentally at core theological, but are not problematic in that sense. They are problematic in terms of sectarian accentuation of geopolitics.
Do you think Iranian nationalism is
and
overbearing?
That is where I think
there's a sense of cultural superiority. These are new Arab nations, new countries. Saudi Arabia did not exist. Persian civilization is older. There was no UAE. Oman, Bahrain, these are post-Ottoman, but Persia, Iran, it's civilizational.
True, true. I fully agree with you. Persian civilization is much older, much consistently developed in that sense of culture being unusually sophisticated in many ways, art, culture, music, and so on. But it's fundamentally the neo-rich elite in that region that is constantly trying to build narratives of each of these having enormous inheritance of all kinds, even various clans that today rule or families that rule. And sometimes they individually, define their heritage and connections all the way to the prophet and so on. So in that sense, the theological differences of fault lines are not by themselves significant, but they are being played
Okay.
out because of this neo-rich elite trying to assert itself and continue to be in power, whether they are monarchies or they are
Okay.
theocracies, as in Tehran.
Okay. A closing comment from you, Ambassador Dayal. When you served there, do you think that the Persian civilization and Persian nationalism has an overbearing impact on Iran's foreign policy, sir?
When I was transferred from Iran, where I served as deputy to the ambassador, to Dubai, where I was taking over as consul general, I paid a farewell call on Jawad Larijani, who was the brother of Ali Larijani, who was recently so much in the news. Jawad Larijani used to head some sort of a nuclear research foundation. And you know what he told me when he heard that I was going to Dubai? He said, "Oh, Dubai, it's a new Bush." That is what the Persians think of all these Gulf Arab states, or at least used to in the 90s. That these are new Bushes which have come up. Nonetheless, the fault lines between Shiite Iran and the Sunni majority Gulf Arab states were very evident. Nonetheless, Mr. Swaran Singh laid out some very important reasons. Let me just add three more factors. One was the 2003 Iraq war, and the overthrow of Saddam Hussein shifted Iraq from Sunni to Shia political leadership.
Yes.
Second was the Arab Spring of 2011. The protests in the region, particularly in Bahrain, intensified the sectarian rivalry. And the third were the Syrian and Yemeni conflicts. The civil war in Syria saw Shiite militants and Iran supporting the Alawite leg, which is a Shiite branch
Yes.
of Bashar al-Assad regime against the Sunni rebel groups. So these have been factors which played out recently. Nonetheless, the Sunni Arab states were trying to engage Iran
Okay.
to avoid conflict. At the same time, they were working out new alliances, such as those like the Abraham Accords. So the divide stays, but both sides try and work around it, and let us see how things play out after this present big conflict in the West Asian region.
Okay, thank you both of you for joining me. This was like really a very interesting and a very nice conversation. A lot of takeaways from it. Thank you both of you. So this is all I had on point tonight. Ambassador Dayal and Professor Swaran Singh actually decoding the historical and cultural reasons for the quagmire which we witnessed today.